There are four different types of prose, and the first one is non-fictional, fictional, heroic, prose, poetry, which is compared to a beauty as well as the sound, and it is in short lines where you find the rhyme. It is more than 50,000, then it is novella or a short novel. Sonnet is very important. So how many lines will be there in the sonnet? There will be 14 lines. Hello everyone, I'm Babita Tamaya, lecturer, Department of English, Vidhyaashram Pre-University College, Mysuru. Today, the topic whatever I have chosen, it is about prose and poetry. What is prose and what is poetry? Let's see the agenda for the day. So here, today I'll be discussing about prose and poetry as well as the components of prose and poetry. Without further ado, let's begin the session. So here first I'll be talking about prose. What is prose? Prose is a verbal or written language that follows the natural flow of speech. It is the most common form of writing used in both fiction and non-fiction. So what is prose? It is the verbal or the written language which flows through a natural flow of speech, and it is almost written in both the forms, that is in the fiction as well as non-fiction. Prose is a form of written and spoken language which usually exhibits a natural flow of speech and grammatical structure. So prose is in the ordinary form. It is written in the form of sentences and paragraph. Whatever we speak, write, think are all in the form of prose. For example, our daily conversations, essays, newspapers, articles are all these in the form of prose. So now let's see what are the different types of prose here. There are four different types of prose, and the first one is non-fictional, fictional, heroic, prose, poetry. These are the four types of prose. Now let's see one by one. First is the non-fictional prose. What is non-fictional prose all about? Non-fictional prose is based on reality. It doesn't have any imaginary elements. For example, like biography, autobiography, speech, diary, all these are into non-fictional. If I say about biography, biography is a book written by someone about other person's life. When I come to autobiography, it is a book written about ourselves. Speech, when I say speech, you attend that is where during the time of competition, that is the speech competition, you take part. Diary, diary is nothing but where you write your emotions and feelings. That is all about diary. So these are some of the non-fictional stories in the prose part. What is fictional prose? Fictional prose is nothing but wholly or partly which is based on imagination. The story here, it will be based on imagination. Fiction is based on imagination and non-fictional is based on reality. I hope you got the difference here. Non-fictional is about reality. What is the real thing happening? It will be explained here, that is in the non-fictional stories. And here, fictional prose, it is only about the imagination. Whatever you imagine, it will be in the form of prose. That is about fictional prose. So there are three types of fictional prose here in it. One is short story, novel, or novella. These are the three types of stories which comes under fictional prose. What do you mean by short story here? Short story is a type of fictional stories. Here in the short story, this short story is written appropriately with a shorter length, where the people, the reader who can finish reading the book within a day. That is about the short story. When I speak about novel, so novel is a lengthy fictional story with minimum of 50,000 words. What is the minimum here? The minimum will be 50,000 words, and if it is less than 15,000 words, you will call it as novella. If it is 50,000, it is novel. It is more than 50,000, then it is novella or a short novel. So these are the three things here in the fictional story. When I move on to the next one, that is heroic. What is heroic here? It is a legendary tale. In the heroic, the heroes, one who becomes the heroes in their life, about them, that is the legendary tales is written in the heroic prose. What is prose poetry? Prose poetry is a mixture of both poem and poetry. It preserves the poetic qualities like high imagination, and feelings. So it preserves poetic qualities like high imaginations and feelings. But it is written in a form of paragraph. How it is written? It is written in a form of paragraph. So this is all about the prose. So you know what is prose, what are the different types of prose, and what do we learn in that different types of prose. Hope I'm clear with this. Moving on to the next one, what is poetry? A poem is a piece writing in which the words are chosen for their beauty and sound and are carefully arranged, often in short lines with rhyme. So always when you see the poetry, you can see the poetry with the beautiful, which is compared to a beauty as well as the sound, and it is in short lines where you find the rhyme. What is rhyme? Rhyme is nothing but rhyming words. For example, lay, me, clay, play. Each and every line, the words will be ending with the rhyming words. That is in the poetry. So what is poetry now? Poetry is a type of literature based on the interplay of rhythm and words. Poetry is a type of literature which is based on the interplay of rhythm and words. It consists of rhyme and meter. What is meter here? Meter is nothing but lines or the stanzas. If there are two lines in the first paragraph, the same thing will be continued in the next paragraph also. If there are two lines in first stanza, the same thing will be continued in the second stanza also. So if there are two lines in the beginning, when it comes to the third line, it is the two lines again. This is how the meter goes on. So in poetry, the poet expresses his feelings and thoughts. What does he expresses? He expresses his feelings and thoughts or tell us the story in a specific form. That is about the poetry. And not only about the rhyming words or the stories here, the poetry may also consist of musical qualities also. Poetry uses figurative speeches like simile. You can find the figurative speeches in poetry like simile, metaphor, hyperbole, etc. So even in the poetry, you can find the commas, inverted commas, comma, everything over there in the poetry. So now let's see the types of poetry. So here there are few types of poetry, but here in this I'm not going to explain each and everything. I'll be explaining very few which is very important. I don't want to burden yourself here. So there are few which is very important. One is about the sonnet and the another one is about the ballad, ode. These are the important things which you should be knowing. So along with this, you have one more, that is lyric. Now we shall go one by one. What is lyric here? So in lyric, the poet expresses his emotions and feelings. He expresses his feelings and thoughts in the form of song. So in lyric, what happens in lyric? In lyric, the poet expresses about one single emotion there. It might be about the life, it might be about the death, or it might be about the love, whatever it is, but he expresses his feelings about one single thing there. Moving on to the next one, that is the sonnets. What are sonnets here? Sonnet is one of the earliest form of poem. It is the earliest form of poem and it is written in short with 14 lines. This is very important. Sonnet is very important. So how many lines will be there in the sonnet? There will be 14 lines. So any poem more than 14 lines or less than 14 lines, can you call it as a sonnet? No. If it is less or more than 14 lines, you cannot call it as a sonnet. As I told, in sonnet, it is of 14 lines. It consists of 14 lines. The poem is about 14 lines. If it is more or if it is less, you cannot call it as a sonnet. Not only this, even if there is no rhyming words, if you don't find the rhyming words in the sonnet, then also it is not called as, if it is 14 lines but no rhyming words, even then you cannot call it as a sonnet. In sonnet, the poet writes about a single person's thought, feelings or emotions in a different way. Here also he speaks about he mentions about only single person. Only single person's emotion, thoughts or ideas or feelings. Everything will be described in a different way. That is in the sonnets. What is ode? Ode is a long lyrical poem. What is ode? Ode is a long lyrical poem. Ode is a long lyrical poem with serious subject and matter. So what do we study here? What is the poem based on? It is based on the serious subject. It is based on the serious subject and matter. Got it? What is ode? Ode is a long lyrical poem which is based on serious subject and matter. So how actually it is? The ode is in the form of an address of object, animals and person. So what does the poet discuss here about? He discusses about the object, animals and person. So the ode will be based on addressing the object, animals and person. It is not only written on objects, animals and person, it is also written on public events like birthday or the death of the leaders. That is about the ode. And the next one is ballad. What is ballad? So, ballad is a song or collection of songs which is wandering around from village to village, which will be sung by the people who is wandering from one village to another village. That is known as ballad. That is people wandering from one village to the other village. So here, this ballad will be basically about nature. It is basically about nature and it is written in 4 lines. How many lines it is written? The ballad is written in 4 lines. So these are the few types of poem which is very important. So I have explained only those. These are it's not so very important when you come to your first PUC. Let's move on to the next one. How poem and prose is different. What is the difference here? Let's see. Follows natural patterns of speech and patterns of communication. What does prose follows here? Prose follows about the speech and communication. When it comes to the poetry, it is the traditional poetry has deliberate such as rhythm and rhyme. Many poems have formal materialic structure. So here it is based on rhythm and rhyme. In poetry you can find rhythm and rhyme, but here in the prose it's speech and communication. Has a grammatical structure. What is the prose having? It has a grammatical structure. Here, incorporate and figurative. So you have a figurative speech. Where do you find the figurative speech? That is in the poetry. Sentence and paragraphs language. So you have sentences, you have paragraphs. So there is a connection between sentences, or else it will be in the paragraph or else in the language. But here, can you find any sentences or paragraph in your poem? No, it's not at all. So here you will find lot of white space on a page than a prose. So when you write a poem, or when have you seen the poem, you have seen in your textbook how the poem is. So it will be not the lengthy one. They don't write it till the end of the text or till the end of that line. So each and everywhere you can see the space, that is the blank space, that is white in color. So it is a lengthy one. We don't write it in a lengthy way. And the next, sentences and thoughts continue across the lines. Each and every sentences will cross along with the lines. Here, deliberate line breaks. So there will be no connectivity from the first line when it comes to the second or the third line. So you have to, when you keep reading and when you try to understand, then only you get the connectivity in poetry. So I hope you have understood what is poem, what is poetry, what are the different types of poems and poetry, what is the difference between poem and prose. I hope you have understood. Have a good day. Thank you.